we are going to attempt to explain why Chidimma Adetshina had such a hard time in the Miss South Africa competition, and the reasons are not what you think at all. The truth is really stranger than fiction. The truth is also independent of opinion. You may find this video highly offensive. If you're not ready to get your mind blown, I really do suggest you skip this video and go watch something else. Thank you.
Hello South Africa, my name is Chidimma Adetshina. I'm 23 years old, all the way from Cape Town. I'm a netball player and an LLB law student. To women and children living in violence, never let anyone silence your voice, because your voice can make a difference. We all deserve to live a life free from violence. You are not alone, and your story matters.
Chidimma Adetshina, or easily known as Chi, was born in 2001 in Soweto, South Africa. She has a Nigerian father and a Mozambican mother. Her father is of Igbo descent, while her mother, a Mozambican, had become a naturalized South African. So this means that she had to meet a criteria, something like living in the country for more than 5 years, speaking at least one of the South African languages, and being of good character. Now, this would have been the description of her mom's nationality a few weeks ago. But right now, it is said that the Department of Home Affairs made an investigation. It was found that her mom illegally came to South Africa about 23 years ago and assumed the identity of a South African lady.
Another twist in the ongoing citizenship furor of Miss South Africa contestant Chidimma Adetshina. Home Affairs says prima facie reasons exist to believe that fraud and identity theft may have been committed by the person recorded in Home Affairs' records as Chidimma Adetshina's mother 23 years ago. However, the Miss SA contestant is absolved. She was an infant at the time the activities allegedly took place in 2001. The department instituted a probe following a request from the organizers of the pageant. Officials are now planning to press criminal charges against all implicated parties once investigations are completed.
Now, nothing is known at the moment. No hard facts have been given. We do not know whose identity her mom supposedly stole. In fact, some people say that these random findings by the Department of Home Affairs were just put out there to basically quench the anger of the public, to just cool people down. So, for the sake of this video, for all intensive purposes, we are going to stick with what we do know. Her father is Nigerian and her mom is Mozambican. Her mom at some point became South African. So Chidimma is currently studying international relations, and that includes law as well. She is studying at the University of Pretoria, and by all accounts, she seems like a normal young woman, an ordinary South African. She likes to dance, she has TikTok, and she wanted to become Miss South Africa. So what's the problem here, you may ask? Well, all of her troubles began when she innocently joined the Miss South Africa beauty pageant. The competition is commonly called Miss SA or Miss SA 2024 in this case. This is essentially a beauty pageant, a competition focused on judging and ranking contestants on their physical attributes. Although they have tried to convince the masses that with time, things like inner beauty, personality, and your ability to answer that "how would you end world hunger" question actually matter. Historically, the word pageant actually referred to a large theatrical production, usually something that was showcasing or displaying a car or even religious ceremonies through plays. Military parades are a form of pageant. Modern armies use parades to instill national pride and confidence in the army, to make the citizens proud while simultaneously showing the rest of the world how mighty and disciplined they are. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Chidimma joined the Miss South Africa competition and even reached the top 11 finalists. This was out of 30 girls. But her name, Chidimma, stood out like a sore thumb, an unmistakably proper Nigerian name. And that's when questions about her heritage started making the rounds. People were confused as to why someone with a Nigerian name was even in the competition in the first place. After all, it was Miss South Africa. Some people started saying she was not eligible to be part of the contest and that she should be removed. Well, Chidimma remained positive and was determined not to let a few naysayers and bullies destroy her dream of becoming the first princess and wearing that coveted Miss South Africa crown. But then at this point, things only got worse. All hell broke loose. She was being called horrible names, slandered and trolled all over the media. Even some politicians chimed in on the matter.
The ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula for urging the Home Affairs Minister to clarify the nationality laws concerning Miss South Africa finalist Chidimma Adetshina. Adetshina, who has Nigerian lineage, has faced backlash on social media, with some calling for her disqualification.
We must never be deaf. The people that voted for me are confronting me as their leader and say, can you check this woman is not South African? And I said, no, we can't just make the accusation. Let us check into the matter. And, you know, I can't be blamed for saying that, so I should just ignore the people that voted for me. I can't do that. So I went to go check in the matter, and then we hit a brick wall. And people just want to answer. I was in Paris now. I had to meet with Anand Singh at a meeting. And then they wanted my passport. I had to stand 10 minutes, and I wasn't angry. And I wasn't angry because they asked me for my passport. Every time you can be stopped here and they'll ask you for your license. You can be stopped here leaving the school. Why can't she just produce and say she's South African? There are beautiful South African young ladies that might be robbed of opportunity. But here's my biggest fear. If she's South African, I'll be the first person to apologize on behalf of everybody that is wrongly accused. I'll be the first one.
And as you can imagine, the whole country was divided. Some celebrities tried to use their platforms to stop the hate, but they too were ostracized and attacked by the mobs of furious citizens. They were called sellouts.
You know, if this girl, I don't even know her name right now, my bad, like I just woke up. If this girl went to the Olympics representing South Africa and she won gold medal, what would you guys be saying? She's Nigerian, she must take that medal to Nigeria. Don't lie, yeah. Don't scam, don't lie. You would say Nigeria can also have a stake in claim, say, our genetics are serving. But we'd also say as South Africans, you know what? We contributed to this greatness.
Mina, obviously some people are saying, Mina, I'm sounding arrogant. I just want to say I've never been arrogant at all. I'm a proponent of advocating for young people's success, young people going for their dreams. I've never been anybody that would give out intentionally, but in an attitude of arrogance. I humble myself as the law is taking its course. Anybody that I might have offended with any of the things that I might have said on my social media regarding the Miss SA matter, I would like to apologize and with no excuses.
Just quickly wanted to say to any Africans watching, although North Africa, I don't know if this applies to you because there are issues, but particularly people from West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, I just want to say that as a South African, I want you to know that it's not all of us. I know there's been a lot of vitriol, hatred spewed over the last few weeks, and I just want you to know that it's not all South Africans.
Now, not much was known about Chidimma prior to her joining this competition, but it has been revealed that her father arrived to South Africa from Nigeria on a study visa in 1996. Her mother entered the country illegally in 1997. And Chidimma was born in Soweto in 2001. She then got married at the age of 21, even had a child. She was married to a Nigerian man. But this marriage did not last and they got divorced a year later. Now, some people have labeled these attacks that this young lady has been receiving as xenophobic. This whole outrage over the Miss South Africa thing is being called xenophobic. And it's no secret that South Africa has struggled for many years with the issue of xenophobia. Ugly face keeps on appearing over and over again over the years. And suspiciously, whenever it's close to election time, this issue also comes up.
She has withdrawn from the competition. Is there still reason for you to pursue the court case against her?
Thank you very much, Polani, for having us. No, there is no reason to pursue. In fact, we're going to court to ask the court to do precisely what she did, to order her to withdraw, to interdict her from participating. And her withdrawal, Polani, is not out of a good heart. You would remember earlier in the week or so, she said no one will stop her from contesting.
Well, that's another topic for another day. Others have even gone as far as calling this onslaught Afrophobia. Let's define these words. What is xenophobia? Xenophobia, according to the dictionary, is the fear or dislike of anything foreign. Well, in this case, Chidimma is not feared, but she sure is disliked. But then that cannot just be because her parents are foreigners, because we also have other mixed race contestants in the show, or contestants with mixed heritages as well. Yet they do not receive any of this hate. Case in point, we have Miss Sherry Wang.
Hello South Africa, my name is Sherry Wang and I'm 29 years old from the beautiful city of Johannesburg. Previously when I entered Miss South Africa, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with the platform. This year, I'm entering with a purpose and that is to bridge a gap between circumstance and opportunity. Unfortunately, too many South Africans lose out on pursuing their goals and their dreams because of their circumstance, and I don't believe in that. I believe that every single person should have the right to pursue that opportunity and to go for their dreams.
A 29-year-old South African from Johannesburg with Chinese heritage. Or we have Leila Zabor. She was born in South Africa to Lebanese parents, so she's actually Arab by heritage. Yet, no backlash.
I was ashamed, I was embarrassed to talk about my issues, and so it led me to having a miscarriage. And that was my turning point where I realized that I needed to change, I needed to get better, I needed to do better. I felt liberated. I feel like there's so much that I've been holding on to, and being able to speak about it, it sets me free, and for some reason it heals me.
So some say it must be black on black violence or black on black hate, Afrophobia. Afrophobia is a form of racism that only targets other Africans or people of African descent. Well, to the simple-minded, this might sound correct and case closed, right? Let's end the video right here.
Black American over African American, because I'm not African. I don't know nothing about African culture. Okay? I know what hot dogs, hamburgers, french fries is, and I'm from the South. We do mac and cheese, chicken, and crab boils. Okay? I don't see them. Do they do crab boils in Africa? No. How the hell am I African American? I don't see them eating crab legs and blue crab and shrimp and shit, like crawfish. Those are Black American things. They don't do that over there. How the hell we African? Stop the madness. Don't call me that no more.
Well, not quite. In order to understand South Africa as a society, you need to understand apartheid, or as the locals say, apartheid. What is apartheid? Apartheid basically means apartness. This is racial segregation, and this was implemented in South Africa for 40 years. And this was all done by the government. So the white ruling government at the time were the architects of apartheid. They decided that Europeans and non-whites should live separate lifestyles. Europeans being more superior and non-whites being second-class citizens in their own country. Whites and non-whites were required to live separately, no intermarriage. They could not use the same restrooms or even ride together on public transport. But unlike the United States, or other places like the Palestine, the racism in South Africa was particularly heinous because even amongst the non-white, the government ensured by law that they were also separate. So there was a hierarchy of sorts, and what it looked like was this: whites or Europeans at the top, coloreds who were basically biracial and mixed race people, and Asians like your Indians, and then black people or Africans or natives as they were called, right at the bottom. Now, I could go on for hours as to how the apartheid government and racist government of South Africa at the time operated. But this is just to give you a broad picture of what was happening. So basically, even in terms of living, the white people were given the biggest and the best cities in South Africa. I'm talking about downtown. They were given all the countryside, the farms, places where fruits and vegetables would grow, basic havens. And then on the outskirts of town, you would have your Asians and your colored people. So they would live in underdeveloped places, but not as bad as other places. And then right outside of the country, where there was basically nothing, the leftovers, this is where you would get your black people. So for context, for example, in South Africa today, places like Sandton in Johannesburg or Constantia in Cape Town would be places where you find white people. Even up to this day, the majority of people in those places are white. And then places like El Dorado Park, Westbury, Lenasia, this is where you would find your Asians and your colored people. Now, colored people in South Africa is not to be confused with colored people in the United States of America.
In some sense, colored people were seen as sort of better blacks. A lot of the time, colored people were also used as a buffer to control and to collaborate with an apartheid racial oppressive system.
And black people were only allowed to mix the cement, while colored people were allowed to lay the bricks. So I think to a certain degree, yes.
Well, that argument doesn't stand if you go to any colored ghetto in Cape Town, South Africa at the moment. Like, there's very little privilege there.
No, I don't see colored people as black. I see colored people as mixed. So I don't see colored people as black.
In the 60s and 70s, when Steve Biko was around, we celebrated this blackness. We didn't call ourselves colored in that particular political sphere, because that's when they started separating and saying there were coloreds, there were other coloreds, there were Malays, and there were Indians, and then and that's separated everybody and fragmented everybody.
In the United States, the word colored is also a derogatory term that was used to refer to African Americans, whilst in South Africa, this is used to refer to people of mixed race. So if your mom was white and your father was black, or your mom was Indian and your father was black, basically people who looked exotic, for lack of a better word. And then your Asians at the time were predominantly Indian people who were brought decades ago by the British as slaves. These people you would find in places like Lenasia and El Dorado Park and so forth. Whatever the apartheid government did over 50 years ago now is still in effect today. And then Africans, you would find them in places like Soweto, Tembisa, the very same places that the apartheid government put them. This is where you find them even today. And if you compare how these places have been developed, how well these places are being looked after, the hierarchy still remains the same. White areas are better, followed by the colored and Asian areas, and then the black areas. In the following segment, I may utter some words that many people will find highly offensive, but these are strictly for educational purposes only. They are not to be used outside of this context. The term kafir, Kaffir, is the most racially charged word in South Africa and holds heavy fines for using it, even possibly jail time. In Arabic, it means infidel or non-believer. This is what Muslims used to call non-Muslims. But in South Africa, it carries an even worse meaning. And unlike the N-word in America, nigger, N-I-G-G-A, this word can under no circumstances be used by anyone of any racial group casually or in films, except for historical or educational purposes, just like this video. Well, sadly, this word is still used today by some people in South Africa because clearly racism's ugly presence is still very much alive in the country. And here is a clip of a recording of a white woman using this word to abuse black policemen. Well, she said this after some of her items were stolen from her car.
God doesn't matter one or one is there in that. This happens all the time. All the time. The judges are terrible. I'm so sick of it. I'm really sick. No, I can tell you now, the caliber of blacks in this town vary from the caliber of blacks in Germany.
Okay, ma'am.
They're opinionated, they're arrogant, and they're just plain and simple. I'm happy for a white person to assist me, or a colored person, or an Indian person. I do not want a black person to assist me. If I see a I will drop him over. If I haven't done,
Ma'am, listen to me now one more time. I'm not going to say it again.
Go away, I don't need your help.
In front of witnesses, this is what she said to me. She doesn't need our help. I've been standing here for quite some time now.
If you wanted to help me, you would have helped me half an hour
Sir,
ago.
I'm not going to argue with her. I'm not going to entertain this.
And I'm not prepared to deal with it. I've just been smashed and grabbed with a car.
You better tell her. If she doesn't want to get arrested, she must calm down.
Go away.
I've offered my service. I've offered to assist her numerous occasions. She doesn't calm down. She doesn't want to.
So far, as you can see, because of the apartheid government, who subjected the local people, or should I say the majority of the African people in South Africa, to heinous and traumatic events, even calling them names like Kaffir that cannot be used today. This already should have some kind of effect on these people's minds. Now let's talk about tribalism and infighting. The African National Congress, or the ANC, is the biggest political party in South Africa, and they have been ruling the country for the last 30 years. However, this was not always the case. The ANC was formed in 1912. This was a party that stood against discrimination and racist ideas against all Africans, hence the name African National Congress. For the most part, they led peaceful protests and the opposition was non-threatening. But as time went by, the apartheid government only became worse and increasingly oppressive. At this point, it was almost a crime being a non-white in South Africa. So the MK, or Umkhonto Wesizwe, which is a Xhosa word, one of the tribes in South Africa, was born. This was the paramilitary wing of the ANC party, which was founded by Nelson Mandela and 13 other people. The fight against apartheid turned from a peaceful protest into an armed struggle. This led the then racist government of South Africa to ban the ANC in 1961. Whilst the ANC was banned, it gave opportunity to another African political party called the IFP, or the Inkatha Freedom Party. This party grew its fan base whilst the ANC was banned. Now, Nelson Mandela and a few of the other leaders from the ANC were Xhosa. Keep in mind, Xhosa is one of the languages in South Africa and also has a tribe. These people belong to the Xhosa tribe. And the IFP, or the Inkatha Freedom Party, was founded and ruled by Zulu men. Zulu, which is another tribe in South Africa. In fact, this is the biggest tribe in South Africa. Now, just for context, South Africa has between 80 to 200 ethnicities, but only 11 officially recognized tribes, which are Afrikaans, the Dutch colonizers that came to South Africa, English, the Englishmen, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, Pedi, Tswana, Sotho, Tsonga, Swazi, and Venda. To cut a very long story short, after the fall of the white-led apartheid government, the country was plunged into chaos, a civil war of sorts, not between white and black, but between the black population themselves. It was a struggle for power due to the void left by the previous government. The ruling chair was vacant and the Zulu people saw it fit for them to rule the nation. Unspeakable violence took place between the years 1990 and 1996. Now, to be fair, there was more to this fight than just tribalism. The two parties had opposing views as well. This became apparent as early as 1976 during the Soweto uprising, where the ANC wanted to respond with force against the racist government, but the IFP wanted a more realistic diplomatic approach, basically non-violent. So the point of this is to highlight the fact that there was infighting amongst black South Africans themselves. Deadly violence was the order of the day. All the chaos and unrest was a symptom of the deeper problem, the problem rooted in pure hatred, sadism, malice, and superiority. South Africa's problem was, and still is, apartheid. We slapped a band-aid on a bullet wound with institutions like the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In simple terms, this was a type of court set up in 1995 by Nelson Mandela and his government. The purpose of this was to reconcile the country so that they could rebrand South Africa as a rainbow nation. Well, the TRC had three things happen in it. The first thing was for the truth to come out. So basically, some people got closure as they were told how some of their loved ones went missing, were killed or tortured or even investigated. The second reason for this was amnesty. So basically, those that confessed could avoid jail time and persecution. Well, only if they could prove that some of their crimes, if not all, were politically motivated at the time. And last but not least, it was also for repatriation and rehabilitation. So basically, the victims of apartheid at the time could then get something from the government, some rehabilitation, closure, repatriation. You know, some people got money, some people got properties, assets, and so forth. The TRC, or the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, only lasted for about 2 years. And suddenly everything was supposed to be forgiven and forgotten. Nelson Mandela even got on TV and gave this whole speech about how one South African will never oppress another. But the problem with this is that apartheid lasted for 46 long years. You can only imagine what happened to these people in 46 years. And even before that, the country was still under racist British rule. Now let's talk about psychology. Well, according to modern psychology, it takes between 3 and 5 generations, about 150 years, to affect the thinking and the mindset of a certain group of people. And this can be done into 4 steps. Socialization. This is how people learn norms and behavior in early childhood. Number 2, cultural transmission. This is basically how beliefs and traditions are passed down from generation to generation, from family to family. Basic storytelling. Number 3, epigenetics. This is about inherited traits. Certain experiences like trauma can affect a baby in the mother's womb, and these effects are apparent and evident in DNA. And number 4 is critical mass. So it's basically monkey see, monkey do. When enough people in a group adopt a certain way of thinking, it becomes totally normal. Point in case, a man was being lynched in America in the Jim Crow days, and parents would bring kids to these tragic fiascos, and the kids would stand there and smile. How could something so horrible be a family event? Well, this is because of psychology. So with that in mind, how do you think 77% of the black African majority would behave and think today after 352 years of being ruled by Europeans and being told you are nothing but a monkey?